Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the WildFly community call. Today is a good day because we have just released WildFly 38. You want to talk about that, Brian?
Sure. So it's mostly released. Our releasing is like a 2-day process where we on the first day, which was yesterday, we end up deploying to Maven or to JBoss Nexus, which makes it available in Maven, and doing it's available in many ways. There's still a few polishing things to do today, which is the second day, including the actual release announcement on the wildfly.org site and adding it to the downloads page. But it's out there. Which is the key thing. So there's links there in the agenda to the release notes. Big things in this one. We moved to microprofile 7.1, which updated a couple specs, MP telemetry and MP open API. In WildFly preview, we added some support, so now you can inject JPA types like an entity manager factory. You can use add inject to inject them, instead of using old style things like at resource. And something I'm really excited about that kind of happened late, and thank you to people on this call, Jean-Francois and Jeff, for driving this. We did a nice big enhancement to our feature pack documentation. It's much more complete, much more information about what's in our feature packs. And a first look at a WildFly catalog, again, to help users see what's out there in the WildFly ecosystem and make decisions about what they need, what they'll have available if they do certain things. So that was really great. I was very happy to see that come in.
Yeah.
So try it out.
I don't think we have all the feature pack yet in the catalog, but in the coming days we should be complete.
So that's really great.
You want to? Yep.
Sure. I can talk a little bit about governance too, and we've talked about that on the last couple of calls and various, the dev list and stuff. So we're updating the WildFly's governance structure to replace one, to put a new governance structure in place. It's appropriate for being at a vendor neutral foundation common house where we are. So that's coming to a conclusion, I believe. A week and a half ago, we started basically a vote on the 2 PRs there, which are governance documents for the WildFly AS and for a group of projects associated with WildFly AS that are all together at Common House. So we started basically an approval process for those where people could give them a thumbs up or down, and that will conclude early next week. Going along, so please have a look. If in particular, if you're somebody who has basically write privileges to any of our repos, you get a vote. You have a voice regardless, but you get a vote if you're one of those people. And that's, we have 100 repos, so there's a lot of people. Please have a look, express your opinion.
Yeah, and as of today, we have only a thumbs up, so we're in a good shape.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So the main topic for the agenda is Eduardo discussions about the future of WildFly app development, but there was 2 things that I wanted to call out. The first is that the REST-EZ project has released a bridge between gRPC and Jakarta REST. I think it's very interesting. There's a lot of work going around with gRPC. We have also a feature pack that provides that capability to WildFly. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. And having a bridge to our familiar Jakarta REST API is definitely a good thing. The second is more just links to a few developers topic around Java SE25. The support is ongoing. There's many different projects that are impacted by that, but there's a lot of work. Are we planning to support 25 for WildFly 39, Brian?
Actually, thank you for mentioning it. That's something we'll talk about more formally in the release announcement, because there's always a section about SE support. So the way we do things, we always aim for a WildFly release to at least be useful for development and testing purposes, to be able to run the latest SE. we've done really, really well for many years now. I think I'm really proud that we've consistently done that. And that is definitely the case with SE25 and WildFly 38. And what that basically means is we run our test suites, which, maybe 7,000 tests, and then they're rerun in different combinations, bootable jar versus Galleon Slim versus just taking whole stock server, we run all those tests on SE25. And basically we aim to have minimal failures, so, and in this case we have none. So that's really good. We don't say that SE25 is one of our recommended ones yet, because there's more to do, which I'll get into. But definitely, if you just want to explore SE21 and WildFly, you're not going to be wasting your time. I'm confident in that. Now, the goal, though, is always that we try to support as quickly as we can LTS releases as one of our recommended ones. So yes, our goal is to be able to include SE25 in the list of recommended things that you should run on as your normal way. I would love to be there by the time we get to WildFly 40. I think that's a reasonable target. It's possible we can be faster, but I think that's a reasonable target. And to do that, basically, there's two things. One is we try to run the TCK, because the TCK is another huge additional test suite. So there's value if you try to run it on a new version, and you can pass everything. There might be some tests that won't work on SE25 because they weren't designed to work on SE25. But if we can run the EE11 TCK is what I'm talking about, and get minimal failures that aren't due to us, that would be another qualifying thing. And the other key one that takes more time is then we also survey our main components, a couple dozen, maybe 3 dozen by now, main component projects, and just evaluate what testing they're doing with SE25. That's the one thing that, that will take more time. Make sure that, we know that the components are covering use cases that our test suite might not by their own testing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have Java 25 tests for PRs at the moment.
Not yet, yeah. That is right now. It's all based on nightly jobs. Yeah.
Okay.
And definitely by the time we say that it's one of our recommended, we will we'll introduce those. Yes.
Okay.
It's an interesting topic too, because there is. I expect we'll end up supporting 3 different SE versions, because I don't think we're going to drop SE17 anytime soon. So that there's all like CI load and how much resources we have, and there's a planning exercise that goes into this too, to figure out how we're going to be able to, how do we have sufficient coverage with the resources we have available to us.
Yeah, and that does not change the fact that WildFly baseline is Java 17.
Yeah, we haven't had any discussion at all of changing that. And personally, I would love to hear from other people if they think otherwise, but I think SE17 is still very much a baseline in the general ecosystem. There's a lot. SE8 is still a baseline for a lot of people. So I think the ecosystem in general isn't in a mood to move on from 17 yet. That could change, but
because Java 25 is a very good release. There's a lot of interesting things like project Lindle, compact headers. So, when can we integrate them in WildFly? It's also something to discuss. If we can do that and still keep Java 17 as a baseline, that would be great. But I'm not sure how much we can do with that.
Yeah, it's all. You're kind of getting into multi-release jars is what you have to do essentially.
Yeah.
But that is a viable solution. It's a painful solution, but if there's a really huge benefit to something, it's certainly a viable solution.
Okay. Any other comments or questions around Java 25? Okay. So the main topic to discuss today is Eduardo's proposal for the future of WildFly app development. You want me to share the document, Eduardo?
Yeah, you can share it yourself.
Okay, thank you. I will scroll down as you present that.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for for giving me this time. So the idea here is, so as you probably know, I lead the quick starts and bombs component, and in, let's say, the last couple of years, we advanced a lot, both, and in my opinion, we reached a time where to go to the next level, we need also to advance documentation and tools. So, but obviously those are not my direct responsibility. I'm not a content lead. So the idea was to start a brainstorm with everyone so how can we cooperate and take it to the next level. So the overview, it's so we have the tools, we have the documentation, we have the quick starts. All of them are related. So to give you my simplified view, we have the tools to help the users to create apps. We have the documentation to help them on how to use the tools and how to do the apps. And we have the quick starts, which should be the example applications used by docs or on how to use the tools. One of the issues at the moment is that we don't use much tools. Instead, in the last year, we started doing other resources like the Getting Started, which those are more focused on the tools and are great examples of how we can quickly make progress with developing apps. So starting with the tools, in my opinion, the tools are the main thing on app development. And we have plenty of tools in WildFly. Guess you probably know them all, so I'm not going through them. But regarding app development, the only thing right now that we have is the archetypes. So the archetypes that we have now are more focused on doing demos, like the Getting Started example. So when I was thinking about this, there were two different directions that we could go. One of them is to mimic what Quarkus did, which is to create a standalone tool. And in the case of Quarkus, they do much more than app development. But if you can scroll a bit. Oh, okay. So that's the option one there. If you click, or you will, that's mainly the Quarkus CLI tool. There is also a web interface, but you can use the CLI to do commands like create, and this will create the app project. Then you can use other commands, other options to modify the project. For instance, if you want to add a functionality like REST, you can add the extension, the REST extension to the project, and the app will then do everything. For instance, like adding dependencies to the project. So there is, like I said, there is also another interface for this, which is a website, a web front end, which use the same code. And this is probably the best user experience that you can get. So you have a new, this will mean a new or adapted or one of the existing tools. In my opinion, Glow could be a good use case for this kind of functionality. So this option, in short, will be like forking the Quarkus tool and either creating our own another standalone tool or to integrate it in something like WildFly Glow. Now, if you go back to our document, yes, Jeff?
Yeah, something that is different, as I understand it, between Quarkus and WildFly is that with WildFly, an Java developer is mostly coding against Jakarta API. So we don't have necessarily extensions that percolates into the user applications. If, for example, they want to use Jakarta REST, they would have to add a dependency through our BOM to that. But that's it. So I think it's a bit different from Quarkus where you are adding capabilities through dependencies.
You could do some sort of mapping between what they have as extensions, we have as features. So the Jakarta is actually a collection of features. And so in this situation, you could, like you had REST extension there, we had REST, our feature REST, which would, for instance, add the REST service and the REST dependencies that we have in the BOM. Obviously, there is. I'm not saying there is a mapping one-on-one. I'm just saying that the concept applies to both. So it's the idea is to you have the project now. We start with an empty project. Now we add the features that we want to our app, except the coding, of course, which is on the domain of the IDE.
Yeah. So something also to keep in mind is that if I'm a user writing applications for WildFly, what I can produce is just a WAR that has no information about WildFly, and I might have a system administrator that will take my WAR and deploy that into a Wi-Fi application server. So we still have that distinctions between I'm just writing an enterprise Java application versus I'm also doing the configuration and setup of the WildFly server that would run my application. I think it's still important to make sure that we can still address that two kind of different use cases. Jean-François, yeah?
Yeah, I think what there is a gap between the notion of extension and our own provisioning that is not based on extension. But you're right, Eduardo, with the introduction of Glow and being able to see Galeon layers as features, we could imagine to define the mapping between Maven dependencies and Galeon layers. We have some metadata to do that. That's not trivial. That requires some work, investigation, and so on. But we could imagine such mapping and have our tooling to, instead of Glow is working on the bytecode, but we could work at the POM level, discover the extension, discover the dependencies, map that to a set of Galeon layers, and finally produce your WildFly server or bootable jar or whatever. Yeah, just wanted to have some.
The critical difference to me, Jean-François, is that with Glow, we are looking at the WAR bytecode. So we are looking what is shipped by the user. If we look at the Maven dependencies, we might, integrate things that are in the dependency, but that are not actually used by the application. So I think we have something that is much more constrained, and that is a good thing.
Sure. I am not sure, Evan, I am not sure that we are speaking about Glow, and I don't think that it's possibly the right tool to integrate such thing. But I just wanted to give that there is a connection with that.
Yeah, honestly, the WildFly Glow reference is just because
no, that's fine.
In the existent set of tools that we have, it will be the one that could make more sense.
Yeah, and what we could do, Jeff, to answer your problem. So we could look at the POM, and we should cross with what is actually used in the Java code. So with this cross, we could find what is, so we are back to Glow. We are looking at the code.
So talking a bit more about this option, a good thing is that, like I said, the user experience, especially compared with option 2 that I will talk next. Also, there is probably a good chance of code reusing from the Quarkus project. I did speak with Alexei briefly about this, but it shouldn't be too hard to adapt. The cons are we may have one more tool. We already have plenty of them. And of course, we will need to continue to have the existing tools. It's not like we can do something like Workers and merge them all in a new tool and stop supporting the existing ones.
Yeah. And just, we have different tools, but they also serve different purpose. And for example, there's some that is to help a system administrator create a Wi-Fi installation that could have deployments. And at that point, there's nothing about WARS dependency because there's nothing yet in that Wi-Fi application server. So we have different tools for different purposes. So we need to be really clear that they all have some use cases. There's some overlaps for sure, but these are also serving different purposes.
Yep. Okay, so moving to option 2. Option 2 was, my idea was to, okay, what we have, what can we do with what we have today? So let's try to minimize development effort. Let's try to, and just to be clear, this doesn't mean that we need to start with all sorts of features in this tooling. I mean, we can start with just a tool that creates an empty project, and we go from there, iteration by iteration, adding more features. So option 2 is to reuse the archetypes project and to introduce one or more, depending on the packaging of the application, basic archetype. And what this basic archetype is it just creates an empty project with our tooling and probably our bombs imported, so we can get dependencies. That's it when it starts, when we create a project. And from there, what you start using is the Maven plugin, the WildFly Maven plugin. Now, this is not a traditional use case of Maven plugins. Usually Maven plugins, you generate another project or you modify and do something else. In this case, the Maven plugin would modify the project. So you have the example in the screen with 2 commands to create a REST application project. One will be to generate the project using the archetype, and then you will use new goals in the WildFly Maven plugin to, for instance, to add dependencies, or let's say to add an Archelian to. So contrary to what we have now in archetypes, which is like we add everything in the project, and then most people start removing stuff that we don't need. The idea here is you go from scratch and you use the plugin to add new stuff to the project.
Yeah, but that was one of the reasons we added a getting started archetype, is to have that minimal thing that works. Yeah.
So these both options will work. Obviously, the option 1 is more risky since it involves possibly a new tool, also maintaining existing tools, and so I'll leave this up to the community to digest and think on it, and then we come back to it. One thing that I would like to say is that whatever option we choose, we should at least do the archetype, the basic archetype, because this could immediately help a lot. For instance, quick start and even some guides or other documentation content, because we use the traditional web app in many places, and doesn't make sense because we are also removing stuff from that one.
Brian, I think you raised your hand first.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when I look at the second one, that Maven WildFly add dependencies, I mean, that seems like the heart of the problem with the first one. executing that is the key problem to solve. So if you solve that problem, it seems logical to me. Why are you kind of shoehorning it into a different tool as opposed to just writing a tool that's designed for a purpose? That's just my impression. You know, I mean, it's more thought than that. Maybe there's other huge problems with creating a separate command line tool to do that.
I believe the main difference here is about user experience, the interface. While in the option 1, you will do something like WildFly command create. Here you do that big archetype command, and the other will be also a simplified command. Where here we are limited to the Maven interface. On the other hand, this gives us more flexibility.
How so?
Because it's more low level, right? You could even do mix with other stuff in Maven or so I see that there are, yeah, in short, those are the main difference: interface and versus we use what we have now, and people are used to it already, to the WildFly Maven plugin.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll just say that I don't know. I don't know if I've ever used a Maven plugin to edit my POM before. So that to me doesn't feel like I would, I'm using something I'm familiar with. It would be like a whole new paradigm that I'm not used to. So, but anyways, I'm not trying to say that one's right or the other. I just wanted to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Jean-François?
Yeah, actually, in the second option, I don't really see the what is going to happen, because it should be just adding a dependency. And in the Maven plugin, we have already Glow that is going to scan your application to produce the server. So this add dependencies is really just updating the dependency of the POM. It doesn't does anything more than that. So don't we have already a Maven plugin, generic plugin that can add dependency?
Well, the idea, this was a simple example. The idea here is to abstract the user to know which dependencies.
Yes, but I don't see the relation with the WildFly Maven plugin.
Well, that will be the tool that does compute which dependencies it adds to the project.
So it's more a BOM, something that will know a mapping between the BOM and some concept.
Yeah, honestly, I will try to avoid to go into into the implementation of these. One way could be we could create mini BOMs for each feature and then just import and depend on each mini BOM. We could have some sort of catalog. We could, I mean, those will be different implementation methods to solve this. But I mean, so look at it just as a functionality example. Okay, we just need to add some sort of change to the project, and in this case, we use the plugin instead of something else, instead of another tool. You can, if you look at, in this case, you are the user, and okay, I want to add a servlet, and you could go to the BOM and try to figure out which dependency you need from the BOM, which is not a very good experience in my opinion. You could, for instance, ask a chatbot which are, and you could get the wrong set, as lately I've been experiencing when trying with vibe coding. Or you could go to documentation, and to our documentation, if which is something that we don't have yet, will be to find which set of dependencies we are. This is, as an example, is important when we use forks.
Yeah, and to be honest, when I need to add a dependency to my project, my IDE is doing that for me. So I see low value in that add dependencies function.
It's
But
just an example.
I think it's more interesting to look at more example you give. For example, I want to add integration test. Now it's not only a problem of dependencies. I need to set up Arquillian. I need to create the structure of the test suite. That one is a bit more interesting, but just I need to add the dependencies to my POM.
Yeah, honestly, we should start with simple ones, and then. But yeah, I wrote those example features, which were the ones that came more into my mind from the quick start's usual context.
The second thing I wanted to do is that the two options are not mutually exclusive. We could have, for example, a CLI tool that would use a Maven archetype to bootstrap the project. It's also something that we could consider. The advantage is that we won't have the horrible user experience of using Maven, because if I'm doing a Maven WildFly add dependencies, then I want also to be able to list that. And how do you do completion with Maven? I have no idea. So even having a simple CLI wrapper that add completions and more user friendliness would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so last bullet point here on the tooling is we should. It's also a good time, a good opportunity to have a look and leverage AI into our tooling. Now, this is something that Jean-François has been looking at more than I. So those are just two questions of what could be done. So we could also have AI app generation and such a situation. Yes, Jeff?
And another thing that would be good if we have a CLI tool is that we could also add more use cases through that tool. For example, if we have, let's say, a WildFly CLI, I could say, install me WildFly 38. And I could use Galeon or Prospero to do that without, asking the user to download yet another tooling. So we have different libraries that provide different use cases, but we could have a CLI as the entry point. Think something like kubectl. It can do a lot of things. All you need is it's around Kubernetes, but you can deploy applications. You can do very different things with the same tool just by having different subcommands. That's also something to consider. Yes, Jean-François?
Yeah, when I did some AI investigation, that really went clear to me that with the introduction of AI CLI, such as Gemini and so on, we can integrate our tools because, as you said, our tools have different use cases. But one of the complexity is actually for users to find the right tool for their use case. And that's something where AI is very good at. It will understand by looking at your natural language what you want to do, and it will route you internally to the right tool. So this understanding of natural language seems to me the key to integrate various tools to do different use cases. Because even if we have a single CLI, the risk is that we are going to explode our options. Because I want to do this, so I command, then a subcommand, then a set of parameters, then a set of parameters. And okay, you have a single tool, but the set of options is so difficult to use. So
that's what kubectl is doing. And people are able to use that. And something that also is great is that you have only to download and use one tool. You don't have to download WildFly, Glow, and Prospero, and whatsoever. So
yeah. So,
but I still agree with your point. That doesn't mean that we should still be able to use our tooling with natural language.
Yeah, and when I speak about integrating into AI CLI, I don't mean that the user needs to download all those tools. That's taken care by the AI CLI. The MCP server has implemented an integration of all the tools. You just install the MCP server, and it will find and call the right tool for you. So yes, it's really similar to kubectl, but we were speaking about AI, and there I think there is a valid use case, understanding your use case to find the right tool.
Yeah. And since we mentioned Quarkus, their dev mode is an MCP server. So that's also something, that could be interesting to think about.
Yeah. So here we are really focusing more now on provisioning and creating server. Sorry, Eduardo. But in some investigation related to application development, one aspect that we need to help is really this understanding of what are inside the BOM, the dependencies I need to use, and what are the versions of WildFly, and what is the BOM artifact, and so on. So I think if we can help there, it would help.
Yeah, definitely. That will be one of the things to discuss in the docs part of it. Okay, let's switch. Let's move forward then and go to BOMs. So BOMs are also tools. So traditionally we have kept them in separate, but BOMs are in fact tools. And there is nothing here there is no revolution here. We spent the last years tuning maintenance and making BOM generation totally automatically. What we definitely need is documentation. That's and that's being worked out in parallel already. So I don't really have any new features to propose regarding BOMs. Now, obviously, there is a but, which is changes in tools can imply that or in WildFly itself, like the dual mode for E10 and E11 may require changes in BOMs. Okay, so don't take these as there will be no changes in the upcoming WildFly release for BOMs. Most probably there will be. It's just not imposed by new features in the BOM builders or stuff like that. It will be supporting some change in docs or in tools for WildFly. Yes, Jeff?
I will show my lack of knowledge of Maven, but can you import multiple BOMs?
Yeah.
So why are we doing the combination of the different BOMs? Why do we have E-standard tools and E-standard with tools?
Well, it's legacy mostly. It existed long time ago already. Yeah.
And what would be the problem with getting rid of E-standard and just providing E-standard with tools? It's just a BOM. So as long as users don't use the dependencies, they shouldn't care if there's more.
Standard. So right now, what we did recently was we separated tools. So now you have a tools BOM, and the other ones with tools is just importing the tools. Those are just extending one and importing the tools. So mostly it's about allowing people to continue as they always worked with BOMs. It doesn't give us any more maintenance or any more work right now.
No, but as a user, there's so much choice that I'm kind of afraid is not the word, but there's too much to decide, to make a decision. Especially if we have 11, 12 coming on. Yeah, Brian?
I would just say, I don't know, maybe in the second half of next year, we should revisit all various compatibility stuff we did and see if we can drop them. That seems like a good timing in the second half of next year is till I think. So which definitely fits into this is a 2026 roadmap discussion. So I do think it seems like there might be some legacy things that we don't have to care about anymore. I think in the first half of the year, we're going to have plenty of other things to focus on, but in the second half, that would be a good use of time.
Something to be careful is that people use BOMs in all sorts of ways. of wrong ways. And honestly, I don't see any reason for us to have a tools bomb. Those are the tools that we use internally in WildFly. Those are not supposed to be used for by users, but it provides some. They don't need to maintain themselves. They just need one version. So the problem is that a lot of people use wrongly the bombs, and then they start using transitive dependencies in the bombs and complaining when those go away. But yeah, I mean, ideally we will get rid of all the tools in all the tools variants. Now, the situation, at least right now, is that we don't have any effort maintaining, which was something good that we achieved.
We have 8 more minutes, Eduardo.
Okay, so maybe we can leave, for instance, quick starts for the next meeting, because there will be much more to talk on regarding quick start. So 8 minutes to discuss documentation. So what I will, to give you a good idea of what current documentation, we have new stuff which is quite cool, like the getting started. We also have a new book, which is the WildFly application development book, which we still don't have published. This is more like you go from scratch and you understand manually everything that you need to do. We have the WildFly guides, which are also recent, which are quite valuable. And we have the old documentation, which has a lot of outdated content. So I guess the documentation, in looking at these exercises, we want first to get rid of the outdated documentation. And the way we evolve our tools will allow us to evolve also our documentation in much better ways. So this new tooling will, for instance, allow the get started, both the get started and the application development book to be, could even be like a chapter, one of the other. So because we finally create a process for users to create their applications. So in the future section, it's more like an analysis of what we need to do at the moment. So you really understand there is a lot to fix and to evolve, especially when you try AI. You clearly understand that AI is lost in our docs. And this is something that Jean-François was talking before. This is the way that we can teach AI to how to work better. In this topic, it's and related with this exercise, it's quite important, the BOMs documentation. And like I said before, this is already going on, this work. So I don't expect now you to digest those changes or what we have there. It's more about you'll have a look, you analyze with time what's going on, what I propose, and later, if all agree, I'll start creating the JIRAs to do that work.
We won't have time to address that today, but I think the quick start discussion is really related to the documentation, because the quick start themselves have a lot of documentation. If you look at micro profile config, it's not only about the quick start, it goes much more into details, and it kind of overlaps with what we have in our administration guide. So there's many places where we have to get the full understanding of what we can do with a capability of WildFly, and that's an issue because we have also the guides. The trouble with the quick start is that they are not really well suited when it's for to showcase a deep technical configuration of WildFly. You have to go through many hoops. So we just want to have an entry point and say this attribute would have that effect, but without having a complete application to showcase that. So I think, yeah, the quick start and the documentation are very related because there's a lot of overlaps between the two.
Yeah, and honestly, much of the quick starts content should be in documentation. Should actually be on documentation. And so my view of the quick starts, and when linked to the documentation, is that the quick starts only provide the ready to build and run applications that we use in documents. So
yeah,
because going beyond that, it's making quick starts documentation, and that's not the intention.
And also, I think, if we are talking about having some tools to help users bring new capabilities to their application, I kind of want to redefine the purpose of quick starts, because now it's just, are we expecting them to get the code from the quick starts and paste that into their applications, or do we want to provide a curated way to add functionalities to an application? Is it just to showcase things, but necessarily asking people to pick and choose from the quick starts?
The application development book tries that already with 2 quick starts at the moment, the Hello World and then the Hello World for REST. The problem right now is, since it's all done from scratch, it's a lot of steps and a lot of effort because we don't have the tooling to help.
Yeah.
But,
and this would apply to any other capability that you would like to add to your application.
But once we have the tooling, all the documentation should become more focused on user story and improve dramatically.
Yeah.
Yes, Jean-François.
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, that would be really great if we take your second option, that instead of just adding the servlet dependency, it will generate an example. So a piece of code to do exactly that. So for all our features, I understand that we need to design the application in such a way that is not realistic, but perhaps a small, I don't know, you have to design the application. But having the code snippet of each feature generated. So you see what I mean? It will be more getting started dynamic than updating real application. Your real application, as you said, Jeff, you can then copy paste from this generated template. It's more than template, it's actual running code for JAX-RS, for GPA, for whatever, but you can generate that dynamically. Okay. So
yeah, for example, let's say I want to use Jakarta data in my application. What does that mean? What do I need to do?
Yeah, it will generate the annotation, the field. It will do whatever you need in a small, not in your application. I think it does. It's very difficult to know where you want to put this line of code in your application, but just generate an example.
We also need to be aware of different similar initiatives for Microprofile and Jakarta IE where there are launchers. So how much would that overlap with what they want to do?
That's a launcher. That's definitely what I was speaking, a launcher.
Yeah. But a launcher is just the initial thing.
Yeah.
Then you are on your own to add new things.
Yeah.
What we are proposing is more, being able to update an existing project and add new capabilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, we are out of time. I think that's definitely a good conversation, Eduardo. I think we should continue to discuss that, especially the quick starts. And something I would like to maybe present the next time is all the different use cases. I'm always talking about use cases, but having a presentation of the different personas, the people that are using WildFly, and the different representation between a developer, a DevOps, a sysadmins, because all the tools that we have serve different purpose. And it's clear in my head, but I think it would be great to have that written on paper.
Some closing words. So I will send an email to the community about this. So considering we didn't have time to go through quick start, so the idea will be to do the next call. So I will send the email in the next coming days. We'll give everyone time to think about on the tools, bombs and docs. Keep an open mind that your mind may change when you see the quick start section, because everything here is connected. But so we'll have the quick start second part, and then have a week or two to agree on which direction we go. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any final words?
Thank you, Eduardo.
Thanks. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Eduardo.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.